Good morning, good morning, good morning. I would say fall is in the air, but at least here in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada, we seem to have jumped right over fall into winter. So it's a little nippy out there this morning. So I am knowing that you are warm and cozy in your homes. So I want to welcome everybody on YouTube, everybody on Facebook, and everybody on Zoom. And let's get started this morning with our first two community songs. Let your neighbors know how filled with joy you are. Here we go.
I
Welcome back. My name is Reverend Rafe Ellis, and I am honored to be the senior minister here at Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. I want to welcome folks again that have joined us on YouTube, Facebook, and Zoom. I want to remind us of who we are and educate our guests about who we are here at Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. We are a radically progressive, radically inclusive, spiritually progressive, supportive community that celebrates the very diversity of creation. We strive to live authentic spiritual lives through a practical application of the teachings of science of mind. We engage in sacred practices that uplift our spirit, deepen our awareness, and ignite our soul's self-expression. We demonstrate active compassion to ourselves, to one another, and the world. And we experience meaningful contribution by giving generously of our time, talents, and treasures. And we intentionally promote our community and our teachings. And so if you're joining us on any social media platform, you can help us intentionally promote our community and our teachings by sharing this live feed, and it's really easy to do right down there in the bottom. You just click on that share button and then hit post, and it will share it right onto your feed, which will then expand our reach. So one of the things that we do here at Sierra Center is we do a candle lighting ritual, an inclusion ritual. And we light these candles to celebrate the unity of all people, all faiths, all beings, all life. We light the first candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the ways of primal spirituality. We light the second candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the third candle for Taoism, honoring the path of ultimate reality, the natural way. We light the fourth candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. And we light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the middle way, the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the teachings of Jesus as the path of love, forgiveness, and healing by the presence within. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of peace and unity. We light the ninth candle for all forms of New Thought teachings, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles of love and law. We light the 10th candle for absolute inclusivity, affirming that all are welcome and celebrated here. And we light this final candle, honoring the infinity of oneness as all creation, seen and unseen. And so now we're going to go into our next community song. So I invite you again, right where you are, lift your voice and join in. Just because we're not in the same room doesn't mean we can't sing together. Here we go. Indeed, love is why we're here. So, as I'm doing this dance with this new format, I'm constantly exploring new ways to create a greater engagement with each of you, since we do have this thing of time and space between us. So this morning, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently in terms of the announcements and how we roll into a few things. So just know that I haven't lost my mind. I've simply changed it. So let's take a look at our giving affirmation, because we are solely sustained by your loving contributions. And we're doing well, and we have room to improve. So we are a bit under our pledged offerings for this year. And so I'm just going to ask folks to go into consciousness. Going to roll out a program right after Thanksgiving. We're going to create our own giving tree and invite everyone on planet Earth to give to us, because we live in infinite possibility, and I'm all about not limiting us. So got some things coming up, but for now, I just really, if you have met your pledge for this year and been consistent with it, thank you. If you are struggling to meet your pledge this year, please reach out so that myself, the other ministers, and the practitioners can hold you in prayer to help you shift your abundance, because you deserve to have the very abundance of creation. Let us help you with that. So let's read our giving affirmation, our intentional giving affirmation together, shall we? I give this gift with love and joy from a consciousness of abundance. Divine love blesses and prospers all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. And so this is our time where we're going to shift inward into our meditation space. So I invite you to minimize the distractions in your physical space and simply allow yourself to go within. There is a moving water as part of the meditation for those of you that are just joining us. So there's visual meditation, there's sound meditation. You get to participate in it at whatever level works for you. I will bring us out of the meditation with our opening spiritual mind treatment, and then we will do our affirmation together. This morning's contemplative meditation comes from the Complete Book of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. Real love is selfless and free from fear. It pours itself out upon the object of its affection without demanding any return. Its joy is in the joy of giving. Love is God in manifestation and the strongest magnetic force in the universe. Pure, unselfish love draws to itself its own. It does not need to seek or demand. So with this breath, I go even more deeply inward. Inward to that place where I recognize the infinite, the one. Life awakening to life. Love, peace, power, the very presence and activity of creation within. And as I recognize it within, I recognize it without. I recognize that I am made of it, that I live within it, and it lives within me. One harmonious, unified operation of infinite possibility, expressing itself in the multiplicity and diversity of form. No two forms of anything alike. No two the same. Each fully infused with all that creation is. And so I know that I am that all that divinity is, lives, moves, and has its being in, through, and as me. I know that what is true of me must be true of every expression. And so everyone within the sound of my voice and beyond, fully the divine, expressing a specific, exquisitely individualized desire of its heart. And so I speak my word, claiming and affirming that this is a time of awakening each and every expression of divinity to its magnificence. I speak the word surrendering into this moment, that my words are guided by the self within, that I surrender to the agency of love, the one mind, knowing that it is speaking. So grateful for this technology that allows us to connect. So grateful for our God-centered ability to respond to this unexpected expression of infinite possibility, to lean into this new experience, and to know that we are fully connected in the oneness that is the truth of our being. And so I release my word, knowing that it must return fulfilled, that which spoke it, the infinite voice, has already said yes to itself. So I can just simply let it be and look for the evidence of its fulfillment. I invite you to join me in anchoring this word as we say together, Amen. Shalom. Aho. Ashe. And so it is. So let's do our affirmation. I will read it through and then invite you to read it through with me. I am listening to the voice of Creator within me. I am consciously engaged in the unfolding of life in, through, and as me. I am the activity of love in this world. All right, let's read that together. I am listening to the voice of Creator within me. I am consciously engaged in the unfolding of life in, through, and as me. I am the activity of love in this world. And so it is.
Gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good. Gonna make a difference. Gonna make it right. As I turn up my collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids on the street with not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? Some is disregard, a broken bottle tie, and one man's soul. They follow each other on the wind, you know, 'cause they got nowhere to go. That's why I want you to know I started with the man in the dirt. I'm asking him to change his way. And no message to the man in the dirt. If you want to make a good place, take a look at yourself and make that change. I've been a victim of a selfish kind of love. It's time that I realize that there are some of the home, not a nickel alone. Could it be really pretending that they're not alone? When a week started, somebody's broken heart and a washed out dream. If I look at it on, can you see? They say you got no place to be. That's why I'm starting with me. I'm starting with a man in the dirt. I'm asking him to change his way. And no message to the man in the dirt. If you want to make a place, take a look at yourself and make that change. I'm starting with the man in the dirt. I'm asking him to change his way. No message to the man in the dirt. If you want to make a place, take a look at yourself and make that change. You gotta move while you got the time. Open your heart, don't close your mind. It's not so crazy and it's not so scary. Take a look at yourself and make that change. Go ahead and make that change. Make that change.
Let's take a breath together. When I found that ending slide for the pre-talk song, it was like, I could just leave this slide up here, and it pretty much says everything. If we would simply allow our heart to take the hand of our brain and lead us, just that in itself would solve a lot. So this morning, we are continuing our Living as Compassionate Conduits theme for the month of November. And this morning, our talk title is How Engaged is God as Us? And last week, we talked about that we explored this reality that God has already given all of itself to us. There's really nothing else it can give us. And so perhaps this morning is the bigger question. How engaged are we in our human experience as the God self that lives within us? And so much of the time we tend to separate and compartmentalize the human and the God as if they're different, as if they're separate. And in oneness, well, that just can't be so. And so part of our journey, if not the totality of it, folks, is really this hero's journey of navigating all of the barriers that we, the collective we, have created against knowing our divinity. All of the thought barriers that we live in that keep us from standing fully in the knowledge, awareness, and experience of our magnificence. And how easy it is to stay in the place of forgetting. And then in those moments of remembering, how easy it is to notice how deeply and profoundly other people are forgetting, and slipping into that place of wishing somebody, anybody, please do something to fix them. And it's an interesting thought pattern that we get into that is actually the delusion of duality. Because there is no place where we can truly, in reality, separate ourselves too. In oneness, there's nowhere else to go. And I think what primarily leads us down this road of delusional experience and thinking is getting stuck in people's behavior, is getting stuck in condition. And then we mentally divorce ourselves from the collective expression of the one. And then we slip into wanting sameness. And then we slip into wanting differences to be approved differences. I'm okay if you're different, as long as you stay within these parameters of differences. Don't get too different. It's an interesting thing that we do. I was having a conversation with a ministerial colleague earlier in the week, and it's interesting how unintentionally we slip into this place of encouraging one another to shine, to step into the full power and presence of the infinite within us. Just don't outshine me when you do it. Anybody ever experienced that or done that? Maybe it's just me. What would it be like if we let go of our limitations? What would happen here on planet Earth if we so radically included every expression of God that we celebrated the individualized expression, that we look beyond behavior, that we stop judging who somebody is based on what they do, and start understanding that what we all do is evidence of what we believe, and really put our teachings into practical application, starting with ourselves first, starting in that place of truly activating God within us that sees only perfection, that responds only with love, that lives in harmony with itself. In the Bible, there's a story in Ezekiel where God is having a conversation with Ezekiel. And God says to Ezekiel, I am sending you to a rebellious nation. The people are obstinate and stubborn. Do not be afraid of what they say or be terrified by them. You must speak my word to them, whether they listen or fail to listen. But you listen to what I say to you. Now, maybe it's just me, but that sounds pretty applicable to today here in the land of the crazy train right now. Right? It's so easy to not hear our own inner voice in all of this chaos, in all of this unpredictability, in all of, we've talked many times in this philosophy and teaching about growth happens outside of our comfort zone. And our comfort zones kind of got blown up. And so we can grow into a greater experience of ourselves, or we can shrink. We're at choice. And so much like that inner voice was speaking to Ezekiel, will we dare to embrace that we are everyone that is being talked about in this passage in Ezekiel? That we are, because if there's only one of us here, right, then everything we're a part of. So we are the rebellious nation. We are the obstinate and stubborn people. We are the ones who hear and refuse to hear. And perhaps if we would stand in that space of connection, in that space of understanding that individualized does not mean separate from, and that when we witness our individualized selves or some other individualized self struggling, that we understand that we too are struggling. We're not separate from that struggle. If we would also, when someone is celebrating, to stand in that space of celebration with them. We are part of the celebration just as much as we're part of the journey of healing. Because in oneness, we are part of it all. And we're here in the United States, we are being called to heal this divide. We cannot heal divisiveness by participating in it. I cannot be a part of healing any level of divisiveness from an us and them perspective. I can't be afraid to love you the same way God loves me and heal divisiveness. There's only one of us here. What will it take to awaken the engagement between your brain and your heart? Because I think for many of us right now, that slide is flipped. That our brain has our heart wrapped in chains and is dragging it behind us. And what would it be like if we simply paused and flipped the paradigm? That we begin to lead from this heart, the God within us, our center of love. And when our brain, and it will, has errant thoughts, that instead of taking out a hammer, bad brain, that we just took its hand and said, let me show you something. And we begin to do exactly what our teaching teaches, to heal mentally, to have a new thought. It's not going to happen without argument from the brain. I would love to tell you that that's an easy, let's just do, come on, here we go. No, it's a hero's journey. Because the brain has been doing it this way for a long time. And it's really set in its ways. All of the instant judgments, all of the instant condemnation that just, it's out of our mouths before we even know it's in our thoughts. It's going to take a little bit of effort, but it doesn't have to take a whole lot of time. It takes attention. It takes intention. It takes focus. And mostly what it takes is compassionate honesty with ourselves. It takes being willing to go, wow, I really just thought that, didn't I? I really just said that. It's that place where we have those moments. Any of you that have spent any time with me, you know, it's like something will fly out and it's quickly followed by, that was out loud, wasn't it? You know, because we have to own it in order to shift it. And so we quickly take ownership that that thought is a lie. What's true, and we have to quickly fill the space with truth, that what is true is that individual is an individualized expression of God. And so I am going to consciously, mentally engage my God self with their God self, whether they hear me or not. You must speak my word, no matter who hears you or fails to hear you. Will we dare to stand in the authenticity of our spiritual self without needing the validation of some earthly self? Because here's the thing, folks. You may never see the evidence of somebody's mind changing. But truth within them recognizes itself. And that is how we lift up that divine spark. We give it a little oxygen. We increase its vibration a little bit. At the human level, we can't unhear what someone says to us. So it's in there. It is now part of the collective consciousness that we're sharing. And perhaps that's the only activity that you need to do. I don't know. We're all called to do different things. We're all called to share the divine word within us differently. Some of us do it through art. Some of us do it through music. Some of us do it as ministers, some as practitioners, some as carpenters, some as electricians. I think the bottom line is, will we live these teachings in every aspect of our life? And that really begins and ends in our own use of consciousness. Start by becoming aware of your errant thinkings. Open to a new thought. Release. If you're judging people because of their behavior, stop it. Call yourself to a higher level of accountability. Doesn't mean we ignore behavior. Quite the opposite. What it means is that we lean into the magnificence that is behind the behavior, knowing that when thought changes, behavior changes. And so perhaps, rather than criticizing, rather than assigning identity based on behavior, we begin to participate in seeing the truth of someone's identity and calling that forward beyond the behavior. Doesn't mean we don't address behavior. I want to be really clear. Oftentimes, one of the things that we as human beings have created a comfort zone of hiding behind this idea of we can just agree to disagree. Well, sometimes we can, and sometimes we can't, because some things are not about agreement or disagreement. They're about, you don't have a right to do that to another human being. You know, whether or not somebody injures another person physically, that's beyond the scope of we're going to agree to disagree. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to abuse anybody. So stop that. But we can address that without making the person bad. It's the behavior that has to change. And so let's begin to move that into being. And if you just heard the alarm, we have sound in this building from time to time. I have named it Rupert. So I don't know what Rupert's up to, but there you go. Bottom line is this. Nobody is their behavior. And we have all, at some point in our lives, behaved badly. Change our behavior as we wake up to the magnificence of who we truly are. Because when you know who you are, you will behave like who you are. Let's take this into prayer. And so in this place of knowing the truth of all life, that magnificent oneness that knows the truth of its being, that knows the perfection of its being, that knows the harmonious operation of itself with itself. I am knowing that that same awareness is alivening itself in the consciousness, in the awareness of all life. I am knowing that beyond condition, beyond reaction, beyond behavior, that we collectively are waking up to the magnificence of creation itself in, through, and as each and every expression. That we are stepping into full ownership of engaging the God self within us with full awareness that as we do, we engage the God self in every expressed form. And as each individualized expression awakens to the truth of who and what we each are, the glory of God is magnified in form, and healing becomes the natural path of all humanity. That love is expressed in every relationship, in every policy, in every procedure, in every action of leadership. Love, engagement with the God self, standing on the authority and agency of perfection itself, beyond selfish motives, the interest of the whole, of the one, magnifies itself in form. So grateful to have this opportunity to consciously, intentionally participate in engaging the God within, to magnify the truth of being, knowing that the word spoken is the word fulfilled, that there is no responsibility for who hears, but to be one who speaks. Grateful to know that the word spoken is the word fulfilled instantly. And gratitude is the faith and trust and belief in knowing and seeing the fulfillment before it is seen. Grateful. And so I let go. I let it be. And I move through this thing called life in a state of expectancy, looking for the evidence of fulfillment. And so it is. I love you. Hello. I miss you guys so much. Whoa. So I've noticed in conversation with folks that many people are opening the newsletter, but the information isn't really getting in. So I thought I would do the announcements a little differently this morning, and actually go through what's there. And it's going to be, we're going to play a little game of kind of like Where's Waldo, Where's the Minister? Because you'll notice that the inset picture moves around depending on the different slide that's up. So we can all keep our little minds and brains engaged looking for the minister in these announcements. Here we go. Okay, we have sent out the pledge letters, we being me. And I wanted to do that individually because I wanted to take the time to put little love notes at the bottom and to hand sign each one of them because it was a way for me to connect with you. It's really important that we continue with as much normalcy as we can with our annual pledge drive because that is the information that is used by your Board of Trustees to establish our budget for 2021. It's a little more creative this year because unlike in the past years, we really don't know how to forecast 2021. What we do know is that we still own a building that has to be maintained. PG&E, for whatever reason, still insists on sending us an electric bill and those types of things. And we want to keep our musicians paid. They have furloughed most of their hours. Same is true with Juanita. She's furloughed most of her hours. And so we still want to keep them engaged and paid. And we need your help to do that. So if you will fill those out, send those back. It's also an opportunity for you to reaffirm your membership. If you're not currently a member and you want to be, and even in this new climate where we have expanded beyond time and space into the virtual realm. So even if you don't live locally, if you feel yourself connected to this community and you want to be a member of this community, then let me know that on there, and we will put together an online membership class, and we will loop you in because we can. All right, let's see what we got next. Thanksgiving Eve service. So I am doing a Thanksgiving Eve service. It is Wednesday, November, I think that says 26th, but I think that's actually the 25th. Now that I think about it, Juanita's checking her phone right now so we can give you accurate information. Anyway, it's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving at 6 o'clock p.m. It will be this same Zoom link for those of you using Zoom, and we will be simulcasting it on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. And it is the 25th, so I will correct my error there for our next newsletter that will come out. Probably get that out on Tuesday so that that's accurate. Now, as part of this Thanksgiving service, we're doing a gratitude project, and some of you stayed after, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and we recorded some gratitudes. And so anybody on Zoom today, if you want to hang out, I could use some more of those, and so we'll just record literally, I am grateful for, and I hit the record button and we get those, and then I'm going to edit them in so that everybody gets to be a part of this Thanksgiving Eve service. So I'll be on the computer right after we're done here to do those. Actualizing Wholeness Discussion Group. This has turned out to be an amazing journey. And Actualizing Wholeness is actually a David Bohm concept. And truly, what we are doing is engaged in deep conversation with no agenda other than the conversation. We're not trying to solve anything. There is no outcome. And that in and of itself will stretch us all in amazing ways. It's a pretty neat group, and you are invited to join. It is on Zoom. It is given by a love offering. And so if you go to our Square store and on the newsletter, those things are linked to that. You give a love offering and then you get the Zoom link. So we'd love to have you join us for that. This coming Friday is actually we're moving in this week. This is International Transgender Awareness Week, and that is culminated on Friday, November 20th, with a Transgender Day of Remembrance. This year, in 2020, as we measure it from September to, November to the end of October, 350 precious individuals have been killed by violence simply because of who they are. And so this is a day where we remember them, and I will be hosting this Transgender Day of Remembrance as part of the series of diversity inclusion webinars as a diversity inclusion commissioner for Centers for Spiritual Living. That information is available in our newsletter. You just click on that to register. Would love to have you join us. Then the following Monday and Tuesday, one of the things that Diversity Inclusion Commission is committed to is creating resources and opportunities for all of us to learn more and experience more about diverse populations and experiences that we may not have individually. And so Reverend Champion Fleming, Reverend Z. Egloff, and some other folks, hosted by Sheila Alexander Reed, who is a Diversity Inclusion Commissioner, are going to be presenting a 2-night series. They are here. It's an affirming the gender non-binary experience. The first night will be an informational presentation, and then the second night will be a discussion format. So if you're curious about an experience in the realm of gender that's different from your own, I highly encourage you to participate in this, because it's really a place of spiritual exploration about getting beyond our nomenclature and our boxes. Now, not every morning, on the mornings, Monday through Saturday, I finally had to surrender and give up doing this meditation on Sunday morning because it was just too much. Monday morning, Reverend Sarah Nichols does the meditation, and then I do the meditations and prayer Tuesday through Saturday. And they are a 20-minute guided meditation followed by a prayer, and would love to have you join me. Those are also available on all 3 locations: Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. The links to that are in the newsletter. They are also on the center's calendar. Okay, I think that covers it. So hopefully this works. I'd love to have your feedback if that's helpful, to have each of the announcements articulated. And please know that we, the ecclesiastical team, we are here for you. We are here to pray with you. We are here to converse with you. If you have a need that is not being met by our current offerings, please reach out and let me know that. I do know that some of you are wanting to gather in small groups, and I also know that right now, locally, our positive cases for COVID-19 are through the roof, and so we're really not in a place to accommodate that at the moment. My heart is right there with you, and just as soon as I can get folks in here at any level, that is my intention and my commitment to do. And in the meantime, I'm open to creating whatever virtual platform. I know it's different, and I know that the more we lean into it, the more we can get out of it. So let me know if it's helpful to open up a room and we just come and hang out. I'm happy to do that. And so we're available to pray with you. And here is ministerial intern and licensed practitioner Julia Robles Scott to tell us about that.
Julia Robles Scott. I'm one of your licensed practitioners at the Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. And I don't know if you're like me, but you may be feeling like I'm missing my spiritual community, missing being there in person with you all. And just wanted to put out this reminder that as one of your practitioners, the practitioners are available to support you and to pray with you. And you can find our information on our center's website, and you can also submit a prayer request through the website, and it's all completely confidential. So we're here for you. We love you, and just know that we're here, and reach out if you need it.
1, 2, 3, 4. walking hand in hand. We'll take this world to lots of good places.